After about 3.5 hours of the 1998 24 Hours of Le Mans, we are back. That is the number 27 machine. Whatever the problem was, it is back out. Currently shows in 6th position. The leader remains a Toyota. It is the number 29 Toyota GT1. THIERRY BOUTSEN started. Kellner's, I believe, now behind the wheel. Then the number 25 Porsche runs second. The sister car, number 26, is third. A good solid run for Porsche. The BMW, the prototype, the World Sports Car, is up into 4th, having a very solid run. And still shown in 5th is the number 28 Toyota as well. So that is your current top 5. And again, a good mix. But it appears the plan of Toyota, or excuse me, of Porsche working very well. You'll notice they popped the little cover off right in front of the windshield in that car. One would suspect that's where brake reservoirs and master cylinders might live. This may be a very deep problem for the Toyota team.
Yeah, we just saw very quickly the face of the designer of the car, Duc Cortans. He looked very concerned.
We are, however, watching right now on screen your second place car. That is the number 25 Porsche GT198. Jörg Müller, Uwe Olsen, and Bob Wollek, the drivers of that car, and it is running like clockwork right now and looking very strong indeed, Anderson.
Yeah, just 20 seconds ahead of its teammate, so those two Porsches running absolutely the same strategy.
Coming up on traffic, a bit of a moment there. The Momo car never saw him coming up behind him, and he just wisely tucked in right behind him.
Oh.
And the GT2 car didn't sense he was there and shut the door as well. That's Didier Taze in the Momo machine, then the GT2 car, and then I would suspect a rather startled driver of a Porsche GT198. Nonetheless, he just backs off a little bit, says we'll live to fight another day, gets around the GT2 traffic.
Boy,
at this stage.
that makes you mad, though, doesn't it? When you got your lights on and you're running this hot Porsche, and these guys just get in the way. Don't they understand they're supposed to get out of your way? Of course, they don't even see you sometimes.
Work continues on the Toyota. We'll see if that machine is going to be able to get back out on track. Still shown in 6th, now slips to 7th. Problems. We'll be back here at Le Mans. Welcome back to Le Mans, everybody, and there's the second place mobile Porsche. Interestingly, you see it as they turn into Indianapolis. He is chasing the Momo Ferrari, but some scant 18 seconds or so in front of that Momo car is the race leader. The battle for the lead after, well, over almost 3 hours and 45 minutes is down to about 19 seconds. So we are seeing a classic develop. This is the big story of the moment, however. That is the number 28 Toyota, still in the pits. Massive brake problems, and that car has now slipped down to 12th in the order. They completed 53 laps as of the pit stop, and that has not changed. However, the others are unfolding. We want to let you know that this is, of course, Speed Weekend International on Speed Vision. In a little bit, we're going to be going to our studios in Stamford, Connecticut. But first, we want to check in with Davy Jones, who's with a driver with a lot of experience in this type of racing. Davy?
Yes, I'm here with John Morton. And John, you've been here many, many years to Le Mans, and this year you're here with the Star Air entry. It's a GT2 Porsche 98 chassis. How's everything going?
Well, everything was going well until we lost a half shaft, lost the CV boot, and we had to change a half shaft. Took us 19 minutes, so dropped us about halfway down the field.
Now, does Porsche give you much help in that regard? Do you think you can make up much time through the night and into tomorrow?
Well, they told us if we ran a 4:15 or 4:19 in between there, we could maybe win the race. But we're going to have to pick it up a little because we got behind. A lot of other cars are having trouble.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a bit of nutrition, and you know, yourself and John Murray and who's the third driver?
Well, Harold Gross and John Graham.
So it's a pretty good trio of drivers, so you should be able to match a good pace through the night.
Yeah, it's a long race and it's so early. It's just there's no point in being worried about things now. We'll just keep the hard a pace as we can do and see where we end up.
Okay, well, thanks, John. We wish you good luck.
Thanks a lot, Davey.
John Morton, again, vastly experienced. Nice to have somebody like that on your team when problems arise. Can be, if nothing else, a calming effect and help get you through it. We're seeing some of the classic traffic that develops at Le Mans. You touched on it earlier, Sam.
Yeah, I was trying to get to a point, which is that sometimes if there are enough rabbits out there at once, enough drivers really pushing hard, even people that might have a more sensible pace in their minds will start to run hard. It's like everybody's doing it, you know. It's a license to start picking up the pace. And that's what we're seeing this year, Andrew. Wouldn't you say? An unusually heavy early pace.
Yeah, it has, of course, already taken its toll on those two Mercedes-Benz, but this is an intriguing battle here. And, of course, the Toyota is the lead car, and he wants to be past that group pretty quickly. There's the Courage of Frank Freon in there. Meanwhile, this other Toyota is still down there in the pits. We got Nissan. They've picked up the pace a little bit, just watching on the timing monitor. They are now reeling off the 350s with regularity, and that's good.
We're watching the driver of the Nissan was really flashing the lights to get by one of the cars. That was Frank Freon in one of the Courages, and the Toyota used that opportunity to blow by them both. But David Murray in the number 7 Yost car right in that mix. Very quick equipment and running in very close concert. They come up on another GT2 car. There's the Nissan, then the Toyota. Right behind them is Murray in the Yost machine. And then the Courage of Frank Freon. And Frank Freon was doing a lot of hunting in the mirrors. He knew there was some quick stuff behind him. And now they come through that corner, Sam, that is such a delicate touch. That right-hander that leads into Indianapolis has no name and is a brutal corner. Now, is that the number 28 machine back out?
Yeah, it is.
There's a bit of a development.
Well, and there the
But
other
it's another one going
Toyotas,
very slow.
Yeah.
going by at the same moment.
Oh, incredibly slow, way off the pace, off to the right, slow enough that the workers display a white flag, which means extremely slow-moving equipment.
Is that the 28 car?
No, the 28 car, I believe, was the one we just saw leaving the pits. So that could be the 27 car, currently shown in 11th spot, that had pitted and had its own set of problems. So, boy, the Toyota, how did you put it? The Toyota camp might be unraveling a little bit here, Sam.
Well, it's funny how they ran so perfectly through about 3 hours and 5 minutes, and then suddenly, right in a row, they had 3 or 4 problems, which are now beginning to, extend a bit, and they're obviously much weakened. I mean, they've still got a car right up front, but their other 2 cars have dropped way, way back.
Sam, don't you think when you're somebody like Nissan, you know what you think the pace is of Porsche? But you were saying before, you've got to have a lot of English expression, a lot of bottle to just keep them running at that pace and say, well, the others, they're going too fast, they will break. This race will come to us.
Yeah, and you know what? You made a great example with the Nissan, because have you seen a Nissan do anything dodgy? I haven't. I mean, they seem so steady. I'm reminded of the old GT44s. They seem, and there you see the Toyota stays out, passed by a Nissan there. That seems hard to explain unless they're just getting up brake pressure. Or
Oh, that's the 27 car, and that was the one that was in the pits with problems, and he just suddenly, you saw him just lose speed, dove to the right again to get out of the racing line.
A gear, it's a gear problem, probably, possibly.
Gear, or intermittent electronics, something, I don't know.
I mean, they're able to go.
Yeah, that's the Japanese-driven car, the Katayama Suzuki car.
Could he conceivably have not known where the pit in?
Or been so absorbed with what the problem was that he missed. Yeah.
Because he was in traffic.
That's a good.
If you're not familiar with the track.
That's a good point. I mean, if you're hunting for a gear or something, and suddenly, oh, geez, that was the
Or else they're just staying out there while the brain trust back in the pits tries to work out what to do. They may have a couple of lower gears, and that's all they've got.
Well, that's very true. I mean, if you don't have the solution, instead of sitting there in the pits, if you can get around, at least save a lap or two.
Yeah.
While they come up with a solution. But it's going to be a long trip for this car at that pace down the Mulsanne at this stage of the game. We're going to step away, but we'll be back with a lot more from Le Mans in just a minute.
And welcome back once again to Speed Weekend International here on Speed Vision. I'm Bill Patrick, and joining me again is Derek Daly. And Derek, heartbreak for Bernd Schneider, the pole sitter. His day lasted about, 75 minutes as opposed to 24 hours. And you were surprised by the very start of this race.
Exactly. Remember the might of Mercedes-Benz here coming to the biggest endurance event in the world. But the run to the first corner almost showed, I think, prestige desperation, because the cameras were going to click on who led this first lap. And if you look at the Toyota in the red car on the left of your picture, he's actually ahead. This is driven by Martin Brundle on the turn into the chicane. However, Schneider goes around the outside, and watch what happens here. Is there contact? Look at the blue smoke over the curbs again. I don't know whether they had contact, but both of those cars were out. You see Schneider here gets pushed down to the pit lane, and the rule says you cannot reverse the car down the pit lane as he hoped to be able to do. But the Mercedes factory effort in in such a short period of time out of the Le Mans 24-hour race.
We also understand now that the number 28 Toyota is officially out of the race, back in the garage, so their day is done as well, Derek.
There you go. There's a sad sight. Think of the hundreds of people that have put in the man-hours to prepare these cars, but have a look here. Remember, this is the same Toyota car, driven by Eric Hellery, leading the race, gets in trouble under braking, and it's not over yet. Look at the GT2 Porsche, thinks he's going to T-bone him. Ooh, he gets on the brakes, slides it back. Look at the gravel left on the racetrack. That car then went to the pit lane. Interesting that the two cars that did they make contact at the first corner? We don't know, but both cars fighting for the lead on that first corner end up in the boondocks.
That's right.
Toyota's not out yet. They could still fix that car.
Well, the top two cars, we understand, are now officially out of the race, and our coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans will continue in a moment. We'll be right back with more from Speed Weekend International in a minute. Stay with us. And check out the Speed Weekend International lineup. It is huge for us this weekend. We'll be heading back live to Le Mans until 1 p.m. when Derek Daly and David Hobbs will call the all-important Formula One qualifying session in Canada. Following the pole winners press conference, it's back to Le Mans until 5 p.m. If for some reason you missed any of the 8.5 hours of live Le Mans coverage today from 8 to 11 Eastern and then 8 to 11 Pacific, we'll recap Day 1 from Le Circuit de la Sarthe. And I screwed that one up, didn't I? Le Circuit de la Sarthe. Sunday's Le Mans coverage resumes from 2 to 3 a.m. Eastern and then back at 6 a.m. Eastern for the final few hours. And the finish, we will shift gears for Formula One pre-race and race action beginning at 12:30 in the afternoon. And to wrap up Speed Weekend International, the FIM World Superbikes are at the Nürburgring. That airs at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. As I just mentioned, we'll be sending you out to Formula One qualifying from Canada at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And since the Grand Prix of Monaco 2 weeks ago, many of the teams have been busy in Europe testing. And Derek, there have been some surprises, have there not?
There really has. And of course, most of the work goes on behind closed doors at these test sessions. We had one at Monza where some of the Goodyear cars were split off and ran their session. Interesting, from Monza, we saw that the Williams car actually comes out with a new revised rear end, and Jacques Villeneuve was second fastest to David Coulthard at Monza, splitting Mika Hakkinen. Michael Schumacher, there you see, was fourth, Trulli and Lacey. And of course then the other half of the European group went to Silverstone. Look at here, Rubens Barrichello in a new long wheelbase Stewart car was the fastest there, and he of course qualified very well in Canada last year. So interesting that the European-based teams use two different racetracks to try and get a handle on Montreal.
All right, that is F1 News, and we'll be back with more from Speed Weekend International in just a minute. I'm going to brush up on my French, I promise you. Back to Le Mans momentarily here on Speed Vision.
Welcome back to Le Mans, everybody, and that is a good look at the village, if you will, here. All kinds of retail space back there, shirts, souvenirs, all kinds of fun stuff, restaurants. The food here is, of course, superb. You would expect that. And a lot of people on hand, about 250,000 show up here for this one and pack the place. There's been a lot of developments on the track while you were away, and they involve Toyotas. This is the number 28 car. Remember, it started outside of the front row, led for much of the early going. After its long pit stop for work on the brakes, it went out, turned one very slow lap, was brought in, and immediately was pushed back behind the barrier. Now, the number 27 car, which had its problems, also went out, ran 2 or 3 odd laps. They'd be fast in spots, then very slow coming out of corners, came into the pits, just turned right and went right back behind the garage wall as well, and the doors came down and they're working on it. Now, obviously, Calvin Fish has been spending a lot of time down there trying to sort through the problems. Calvin, what's up?
Well, the number 27 machine, Greg, as we sort of like talked about in their pit stop earlier on, I think there's a gear selection problem. That would indicate the problems they're having on the track. He suddenly comes out of a corner, he can't select any gears, basically finds a bag of neutrals, and then he tries and finds one and gets it back here. They pull it straight in. Looks like they're not changing the gearbox right now, trying to actually work on the gear mechanism, the gear selector. But right now on the 28 car, the car that led early with Brundle behind the wheel, we saw Eric Hillary have that problem on course coming into one of the chicanes, and they actually changed the left front upright on this car, and this would indicate a problem that we sort of like hypothesized with earlier with the fact with the wheel bearing going out. You'd suddenly brakes, the brake pedal wouldn't be there, and then you'll have a mismatched bias front to rear. So they changed the left front upright as they were doing so, and they had the car in the pits. They went ahead and changed the rotors all the way around, so obviously a braking imbalance there, probably created by an up on this left front corner. So a lot.
Well, and obviously they are thrashing to try and get that car back out on track. It is plummeting down the order. They'd like to salvage something. Up front, though, the sister car, the number 29 machine, started by Boutsen and Kellner's and Lee's also on board. That's the car right there, and it continues to lead, and it is drawing away a little bit. The number 25, as we mentioned, the Porsche of Muller, ALZEN, and WOLLEK, had about 18 seconds back not that long ago. The margin now, Andrew, is up to 27 seconds, so it's not by huge leaps and bounds, but the Toyota is drawing away.
That's right, but I just see that one of the Porsches has just put in its fastest lap thus far. In fact, that's the number 7 car, one of the open cars. That has moved back up to 10th place. We are also noting the progress of the Nissans, and we have got a Nissan now in the top 5. That's the first time.
Nissan is having a very solid run right to the program they want, and that fast lap in the number 7 car, David Murray, the American, putting in the quick lap in that car. Good effort hauling it into the top 10. We'll be back with more from Le Mans. Back at Le Mans, closing in just a minute or so from the 4-hour mark, 20 remaining in this classic endurance event, and that is your leader, number 29. It just is running with all the problems that the team cars have been having. The number 29 machine is looking very strong. Remember, that's one of the Goliaths we were talking about. We've got some problems developing from one of the Davies, one of the smaller teams, and Davie is there.
Yes, I'm down here. Apparently they're frantically working on the car. There seems to be a problem with the back end. I'm trying to see if I can get back here with Drio, who's the owner of the Dams team, to actually ask him, you know, where we go. Yeah.
Bit hectic down there, I think.
Yeah, Johnny O'Connell behind the wheel.
What is the problem?
It's the starter motor which failed, so we are changing it right now.
Thank you, thanks. Well, it seems to be a starter motor, and they're frantically trying to change it, so we'll just step back out of their garage, out of their way.
Well, frustrating. The car working fine at pits. They can't get it going again.
Yeah, nasty thing to change as well. Very hot and dirty down there, and quite a lot of, well, not much space, I should say. But you know one thing really interesting? I'm going to make a prediction now. I think we could see a McLaren at the end in the top 5. Do you know what? That number 40 car has already moved up to 13th.
Okay, problems for the BMW. Calvin.
Well, the number 1 car is in. We've already parked the number 2 machine. That looks like that's out of play for the rest of the day, and the number 1 car is in. They made an unscheduled pit stop about 10 minutes ago whilst we were away at the studio. Steve Soper behind the wheel. Seemed like it was a braking problem. He brought it in, they put the car in the air. They are working with the carbon fiber rotors, trying to see what the problem was. A lot of confusion, a lot of head scratching. They sent him back out, and now he's back into the garage area, and he's jumping out of the car. And right now, not a lot of activity actually being taken place on the car. The mechanics are trying to get some feedback from Steve. They're trying to make a decision on what to do. But I think it is either in the upright area or the rotor area of the car. We'll try and get an update for you.
I almost wonder, we were talking about how unique the design on that car is, and that all of the ducting, whether it's for, with the exception of the intake manifold for the engine, it's ground effects, the venting, cooling, the whole thing comes from underneath the car, not the side ducts. I wonder if the braking problem, if they're finding in this warm weather, Andrew, that maybe they're just not getting enough cooling to the brakes.
Yeah, that could certainly be possible, but well, that's a big blow for BMW. That car was going very strongly indeed. Currently still showing in 6th place, but it'll soon drop from there.
Very impressive program, and it had made some great strides, even with problems by the sister car. This one had been looking very strong, and there's a good look. The BMW front end, those two kidney-shaped grills, as they call it, they don't really operate. Everything comes from underneath that car. Very interesting indeed. Problems continue to develop for some of the front runners. We'll be back at Le Mans. Welcome back. You are seeing a beautiful view for just a moment there of what they call the Sarth Valley. The Sarth River runs through this area, and this is in the northeastern corner, essentially, of the Sarth Valley. Beautiful area, and that is one of the Yost Porsches. The number 8 machine has just completed a stop. There's a good look at our race leader, the number 29 Toyota, and it has now stretched its margin another 3 seconds. It is 30.7 seconds in front of the second place, number 25 Porsche GT1 98. So they are running very strongly, and they are the lone 2 cars, by the way, on the lead lap. 62 laps completed by those 2. The second Porsche, if you will, third place overall, number 26, is a lap back, as are 2 Nissans, and that indeed is a developing story we're going to be following. But right now, with problems for the other 2 cars, pretty much the weight of the world is riding with the drivers and teams of the number 29 Toyota, Sam.
Notice the guardrails. They were put in back in 1969, and before that, you literally drove right down through the forest. They painted the trunks of some of the trees out of terre rouge white to help you understand where you were. But if anything went wrong, it was you and the trees. Can you imagine the confidence level that went in along with those guardrails? Thank goodness for them.
And Sam, when I first started coming here, I used to actually walk down the pits. There was no guardrail between the racetrack and the pits,
right,
because it was the old track. People came steaming past you at 170 miles an hour, just scribbling away in the old notebook, taking the notes, you know. And
speaking of leaving the pits quickly, that is the number 28 Toyota that has been having its problems, Andrew. It is back out. Now we'll get to see whether it in fact they have solved the problems or whether it was a temporary fix. Let's check in with Calvin, who's got some information that we watched unfold just a minute ago on BMW. Calvin?
Well, the situation here in the pits, guys, is that both cars are retired. The number 1 machine came in, Steve Soper behind the wheel, and it seems like they have an identical problem. There's something wrong in the front upright area of the car. They're not really saying a lot, obviously, similar to the Mercedes situation. They're very tight-lipped. They'll probably come out with an official reason a little bit later on in the game, but it is in the right front corner of the car. Whether it's a wheel bearing, an upright failure, I'm not sure, but they really feel it's permanent. They are not going to be able to fix it, and it looks like both cars are retired for the time today. And meanwhile, further down pit lane, Davy Jones has a report on the PANOZ situation.
Well, they're frantically here in the PANOZ pit trying to change the starter motor on the back. They've already changed all 4 tires and done what they could do on the car if it was in for a normal pit stop. But the unusual thing is, while it was in here having the starter motor changed, they were fixing chips in the windscreen. They had an extra device that they can suction cup onto the windshield and fix the chips, you know, that they get thrown off from other cars that go through the gravel traps. These windshields pit very easily. So it's quite interesting that not only is it a starter mover, but they're taking this advantage to cure other things on the car as well.
Well, visibility, particularly as we're closing in a couple of hours away, but nonetheless, the sun's starting to get lower in the sky, and the oil and debris in the windshield, and if you've got chips in there as well, it tends to scatter light rather badly, and they are going to continue to work on that. But you can see the starter motor is the area where they are really still struggling, frankly, to try and get that car back out.
yeah, that's some interesting new technology with the chips. Actually, you can get that done on your road car now, because the windshield's really expensive.
And we get a report the leader is down in the pits. There it is. The number 29 Toyota is in, and they are refueling. And as we've mentioned before, as long as they are refueling, no work can be done on the car. So we'll see once they pull the refueling hoses out whether or not we get tires and a driver's change. At this point, it's just wait and see. And Calvin has arrived. Go ahead, Calvin.
Well, it looks routine at the moment, Greg, and they did do the fuel. Looks like they're going to wait on no tire change. They just quick wipe of the windshield, and he stalls it on the way out. He tries to get it refired up. There seems to be a bit of a problem with this car getting it out of the pits. A little few more revs, and he's out of here, no problem. The 1 car left of the Toyota squad that doesn't seem to have any problems at this moment in time anyway.
And of course, the good news is the number 27 car for the Toyota team is back out onto the track as well. It had a longish stop, we suspect, trying to replace or at least repair a gearbox, something, and it is back out. So we'll watch to see what's going on with the 28 and the 27 Toyotas. But as Calvin said, the 27 car looking very strong, or the 29 car, excuse me, and it needs to be, because that number 25 Porsche has been very effective indeed. Now, that Porsche should slide into the lead. Here's what we were talking about, Andrew, that it sticks to the windshield, and then they can go to work and try and fix the chips.
Yeah, they use some special fluid which then solidifies and cleans the windscreen up. Just incidentally, the Toyota, it lost something like 7 or 8 laps, so that really is, well, it could still get back to the first 3 or 4, but, you know, it really does take it out of contention for a while.
Meantime, the Porsche juggernaut is really at full tilt right now, aren't they? I mean, first of all, they've eliminated both other, or seen eliminated both other German teams from BMW and Mercedes-Benz before the race is even 4 hours old. I mean, what a satisfaction in a sense for Porsche. I mean, it really, from a nationalistic pride point of view, that's a tremendous achievement.
And pure sentimentality. Again, we talked about the 50th anniversary.
Sure,
and, I mean, all of those.
Ferrari Porsche this year and so forth. I mean, I think a lot of people, Porsche usually comes into this thing with more intensity and more stuff than everybody else, and you sort of see them as the most overbearing of all the teams. But in fact, this year, I think you almost saw them not as underdogs exactly, but a little more sentiment on their side than usual.
And it was mentioned in the Porsche press conference, just to give you an idea of how supportive and what a factor Porsche has been in keeping sports car racing alive and popular throughout the world. In this race alone, it was announced at the Porsche press conference, since they first entered it in 1951, 632 different Porsches have contested the Le Mans 24-hour race.
The Porsche is the food of Le Mans. It's the nourishment. You take the Porsche out of this field. Look at how many GT2 Porsches there are. That's about a third of the field here. And in many other years, it's run as high as 40%. They're reliable. They're safe. They're available to private owners. And they're the backbone of all sorts of racing, and particularly long-distance racing.
Yeah, just looking at the position at the front, it's seesawing between about 25 to 30 seconds. The Toyota's still leading those Porsches in second and third positions.
Continues to be a great battle as we are more than a sixth through the 24-hour race, and this might very well be the 25 Porsche. It would have assumed the lead during the 29 Toyota stop, so the mobile Porsche, the leader, we suspect it is. Yes, it is. The number 25 car is coming in, and obviously we cycle through the pit stops, and that margin, as you just said, Andrew, of about 20 to 30 seconds would seem to hold, but the Porsche's in, the refueling rig is in, and looks like we might see the drivers change, or at least a consultation at this stage. And the other Panos, no, that is the number 44 Panos. Yep, it is back out.
Obviously the new starter motor worked.
Brum, brum, brum.
It's always a good sound after a long repair.
And a fancy fix to the windshield.
And no driver change apparently in the Porsche. They were just perhaps giving a little bit of liquid refreshment. Let's check in with Davey, who's got an update on the Panos. Davey?
Well, they did a really good job of changing the starter motor and fixing the windscreen and add new tires and all the stuff they need to do while they're down. But, you know, they lost valuable track time. Anytime that you're down 10, 12 minutes like that, you know, it's very, very difficult to make it up. But it is a 24-hour race, so you never know where they can end up. Meanwhile, the number 45 Panos of David Brabham, Andy Wallace, and Jamie Davis, you know, they just said that their car is just not as quick as they would like it to be. They're not getting the fuel mileage they thought that they would before they started the race, and they don't have much grip. The car is sliding all over the place, so it's very difficult for them to drive at the moment. But, you know, nevertheless, they're quite comfortable with the car, and they're just going to just carry on through the night.
To give you an idea of the impact of a 7 or 8 minute pit stop, a car en route to victory will probably only stop about 1 minute per hour, 23, 24 minutes over the whole distance. So that gives you some idea.
It can play a role, no question, and that's where the crew comes in. It is, after all, a team sport, perhaps never more so than here at Le Mans.
Porsche has a very special tradition here at Le Mans, a tradition of victory. More wins than any other make. And this year, on their 50th anniversary as a company, and the year in which Dr. Ferry Porsche dies, they hope to win again. Their win here at Le Mans last year, their 15th, was bittersweet. For most of the race, it looked as if their pair of factory-entered 911 GT1s were headed for victory lane. Car number 25, driven by veterans Hans Stuck, Terry Boutsen, and Bob Wollek, jumped out to an early lead, which it held until early Sunday morning, when a mistake by Bob Wollek at Arnage led to a broken drive shaft, taking the car out of the race. That opened the door for Porsche's second 911 GT1, driven by young guns Yannick Dalmas, Ralph Kelleners, and Emmanuel Collard. But late in the race, while leading, they too came to grief with a bang.
Is that smoke?
Yeah, he's in trouble. The
Big
leader.
trouble.
Oh no, the car has exploded into a ball of flame.
I don't see the driver out of that car.
Yeah, there you go.
There he is.
Ralph Kellner's.
The Porsche team is out of this race.
And of course now, the lead falls to the Yost car, the number 7 car that won last year. Now they will win again this year if they can finish the next 2.5 hours.
And finish they did. Reinhold Jost's team of Michele Alboreto, Stefan Johansson, and Tom Christensen piloted this Porsche-powered TWR prototype to the checkered flag, taking overall honors for the 2nd consecutive year. This year, Porsche is taking no chances. Alongside their 2 new 911 GT1 98s, Porsche has entered Jost's 2 prototypes as part of their factory effort. The cars have undergone substantial development work by Porsche, including a conversion to the GT1's 3.2-liter engine. Jost and Porsche's chances are looking as good as ever.
Very interested group, of course, of Porsche personnel watching the monitor and keeping an eye on how things are unfolding in this race. And really, I think they have to be liking what they're seeing. They've got the Toyota out in front, but the rest of the team are looking very strong. And Davie is there. Davie?
Björk, the weather's turned out perfect. You know, all the type of testing that you've been doing all week for this, is the car just handling very well? Is it suited for it fine?
Yeah, at the moment we're not going the speed than the Toyotas are going, because we want to save the car, and I mean, we've got another 19 hours to go, so at the moment we're saving a bit, and we'll see after 15-20 hours what we have to do, if we have to drive quicker or not. At the moment it's just, you know, saving and trying not to break something.
But now all 3 drivers have had their turn in the car, and you've all had the feedback and everything is going smooth.
Yeah, the car is like a Swiss watch, you know, runs like really perfect, like a Porsche does always, and hopefully it will run the same good after the 24-hour race.
Thank you, Mark. You know, there's nothing like having a good car at Le Mans, and he's right, Porsche runs like clockwork.
Car's fantastic. Thank you.
And Jörg Muller did a brilliant job starting that car off, running a couple of strong stints. That's the 27 Toyota back in. And they again have the door up and are working inside the cockpit, we would suspect around the shift mechanism area, Sam.
Well, obviously they decided not to, or not that obviously, but change the entire transmission. And the hope is that it is a gear selector problem, which tends to be less serious mechanically, and unless they wind up with jammed gear inside the box as a result.
Interestingly, the Jörg Muller car, that has just moved much closer to Toyota. He's closing in on him. The gap is only 13 seconds now. But down in the pits, Calvin has got Wayne Taylor.
Well, Wayne, you're certainly in a much better frame of mind right now. I believe you found the problem with the car.
Yeah, we did. As I said to you before, the car was pretty scary to drive in the first 3 stints. And then when Eric took over on his 2nd lap, we lost the front wheel. And what happened was, you can see the chamfer in here, the wheel nut broke. And of course, once the wheel nut broke, there was no locating device to keep the wheel on the car. And I think what was going on earlier was the thing was probably broken, and the wheel was moving around on the upright, which was making it undrivable. And now we seem to be lapping as fast as the leaders, and we've increased the fuel consumption, so we're up to 10, maybe 11 laps on a stint of gas, and we appear to be running as fast as anybody. But obviously we've lost some laps, but it's still a long way.
How did you manage to improve the fuel consumption? What did you do to the car?
Well, basically what we've done is we have a mechanical a gauge where we can actually alter the mixture, and so we've turned the engine down. We're running it a lot leaner, which means a loss of performance, but at least we can run longer on a tank of gas.
Probably more importantly, you can look forward to the other 19 hours, right?
Yeah, well, now at least I'm looking forward to getting back in it. I don't think I would have got back in it if we hadn't found that problem.
Okay, thanks, Wayne.
Thanks a lot.
That was obviously a very serious problem. And I think one of the things that's got Wayne smiling, you see the sunlight on his face.
Yeah.
Means that we're in for some nice weather as we head toward night here at Le Mans. Always a plus from the driver's perspective. Welcome back, everybody. You can see it's still a very strong crowd on hand here, and they do not go away. 250,000 thereabouts, and they're going to be here right to the finish tomorrow afternoon in France at 2 o'clock. and they are in the midst of watching a very solid race. Now, the Sony PlayStation race recap thus far, elapsed time at this point, we are about 4 hours and 20 minutes into the 24-hour race. And we have seen an awful lot of developments. Class leaders, well, in the overall class, of course, it is the number 29 Toyota continuing to lead. Although the margin is coming down, Andrew, we now see less than 15 seconds back to the number 25 Porsche.
That's right. The prototype class is currently led by another factory Porsche, the number 8 car. In fact, there's 4 factory Porsches in the top 10 now. And in the GT2 category, that's the number 51 car. And the 51 car is certainly leading that in the Viper. But let's go down to Calvin.
Well, Thierry, obviously all 3 cars were running so well in the first 2 or 3 hours, and then you saw the number 28 and the 27 have problems. You're currently leading in the 29. I think Jeff Lees is behind the wheel right now. Any problems with your machine?
Well, ours is going very well. I mean, we don't have any problem with whatever. Everything is going fine at the moment. So we're not pushing very hard. We know the car is fast enough to keep the lead and to keep the pace that we are doing at the moment without forcing anything at all. I mean, I did the first 2 stints very easily, braking very early, accelerating very smoothly, also trying to keep the car going very nicely, and our aim is to finish the race. So we're leading at the moment. It's very nice position, but the race is so long here, anything can happen.
Absolutely. Are you surprised by the rate of attrition so far? BMWs are out. We're seeing both Mercedes retire, you know, and obviously 2 cars in your garage area have problems early. I mean, this is not typical. Obviously, a little bit further into the race, you may expect to see that, but a lot of new teams here, obviously, but this is a little early in the running.
A lot of new cars, a lot of new teams, for sure. What I can say about us is we have a brand new car. This is the first race of the car here and the first race of the whole team. I mean, it was grounded last year, and we've developed everything and built everything up to get the car at this level today. So I'm very, very happy to be driving for Toyota, because the car is so nice to drive, and they did an incredible job to build this all and be ready for this race. We're leading the race, that's perfect. What else can we expect?
Obviously, the 2 Porsches are like running on the same lap as you guys right now. I'm not sure ultimately with pit stops who's in the lead right now. If you have to push, how much does the car have in hand? I mean, obviously qualifying times are one thing, but how many seconds could you increase the pace by when you get to the last 4 or 5 hours?
I think if we push hard, we're going to get the right tires on it and push, I mean, the gear, push all gears up, and go 1 gear down in every corner and everything. I think we got about 2 seconds under the foot, but we don't want to use that at the moment. I mean, Porsche don't want to use it either. They also go at their own pace in order to finish the race, I think, and that will be our biggest competitor. I mean, we will be our biggest competitor, because if we make a mistake, that will be it. So let's see, we will keep on going the same pace all the time and see what it gives in the morning tomorrow.
I spoke to Martin after his, and he said that he elected not to run the ABS on his car. I understand it was available. What is your car running? Do you have the ABS on?
I'm running the ABS, yes. It gives me the, I mean, I tuned it. I mean, I spent the 2 days here and the 3 days before we came here trying to get it to work nicely with the car. And I've got quite a good compromise, so I'm very happy to use it. It's a safety device, which is nice.
Does it really give you an advantage over the bumps, say, at the end of Mulsanne? You know, when you're on the bumps and you got carbon brakes?
It's a disadvantage over the bumps, because you're locking the wheels a little bit and the ABS reacts, so you don't brake as hard as you could with normal, I mean, without the ABS. But in the places where you brake hard, and when you have some surprise with a slower car that comes right in front of you, something like that, the ABS is very, I mean, it's a natural thing now to push real hard and brake. I mean, we cannot make this mistake to lock the wheels, and that's very important.
Okay, Thierry, good luck for the rest of the way.
Thank you very much. It's a long race.
Yeah, Calvin, quite interesting, him talking there about the lap times. That car is currently doing 3:48s, 3:49s. Right at the beginning of the race, you know, Martin Brundle did a 3:43. So really, there must be 5 seconds in that car.
Well, and obviously he was taking great pains, Sam, as we got some great action. Whoa, down into Indianapolis, little lap traffic, and the leader gets through clean, and the PANOZ that they just put a lap on is going to get through too. But again, the traffic we've talked about. But Thierry Boutsen, when Calvin was talking to him, it appeared it almost hurt for him to say, yes, it's going well right now, like he was going to jinx something and create a problem.
I don't blame him. I think there's a lot of superstition in racing, and when you're out front, you just don't don't even want to think about it. What I noticed is, did you notice he just cataloged the things that you want to do right as a driver? I mean, almost programming himself to do it right. And with his level of experience, boy, he is someone I would choose for my team. I think you will not see a mistake from him, I suspect.
Tremendous experience, and of course, when he needs to be, extremely quick.
Extremely quick, and that experience spanned 163 Grand Prix. But all the time he stayed in sports car racing. He's often driven in sports car racing. He really loves it. So a great career, won 3 Grand Prix. Canada was a race he won, incidentally, for Williams.
Good point there, how many Formula One drivers have given up even trying to be at Le Mans the last few years. Of course, there's been a date conflict, which has basically ruled it out. But before that, they said Le Mans is an anomaly. It's maybe too dangerous. We'd rather stay out of it. I think it's a shame, because if you look back in the 50s and 60s, they did both, and it really added.
Sound frankly, there's something that gets their attention. Dollars.
Yeah, and there is still a lot more money in Formula One than in sports car racing.
Yeah, but with these big manufacturers in there, yeah, write the big checks out. I gather that it's about a decent driver, not absolute top-notch, getting paid about £50,000, $80,000 or so to drive this race today.
Well, I wonder how many of the drivers in this race have also done Formula One. At least a dozen as I scan this list. So they're not necessarily, of course, they're not active right now, because if they were, they'd be in Canada. And coming up any minute now, of course, will be the qualifying show from there, live on Speed Vision. You don't want to miss that. But it's amazing. You look down the list and you see all sorts of men who, like Alboreto and Wendlinger,
Johansson, of course.
Stuck, Johansson, as you say. Many, anyway. We will assemble a list over time.
The lead has just opened out a little bit. The 29 car is now just about 21.5 seconds in front of the 25 car, and that is very closely followed now by the 26 Porsche. But it's very interesting to note that also right up there are those Nissans. They're moving up 2 in the top 5.
And I will suspect that might be number 27, gentlemen. We've seen that that exact same approach to that corner before. Suddenly nothing on the exit of the turns and diving to the inside to get out of the way of oncoming traffic. So that problem certainly may not be solved. And the number 29 car, the Toyota, continues to just keep on moving. Things seem to be developing. We're talking about how close the 2 Porsches are running, and Davies down in the pits. Davey, what's going on?
Well, it wasn't too long ago, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I first drove here at Le Mans, we relied on our pit board signals from the end of the Mulsanne straightaway. They used to radio from the actual pits here at Le Mans back to the end of the Mulsanne straightaway on the pit board signals. Now, since they've redone the Mulsanne straight and added in the chicanes and redone the pit lane here at Le Mans, they've now moved the pit boards up here to the actual pit lane where they should be. And along with that, they have all the timing and scoring. All the teams have all the boosts, and they keep track of what every team is doing, every car on the lap time. Just real quick here, Chris Heiford, you're doing all the timing and scoring for PANOZ. Just what goes on during the race?
Well, we keep track of everyone in the race, and we provide information on times, position, and pit stops to the manager to help him plan the strategy. And it's a challenge in a long race like this.
So are you going to stay up for the full 24 hours?
Pardon?
Are you going to stay up for the full 24 hours?
Oh, yes. We will.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very interesting here at Le Mans, you know. Just tradition goes on, and I'm sure Sam, you can evaluate a lot more on that. But you know, it's very modernized now from when it was back when you and I were racing.
It sure is, but at the same time, you ask, are you going to stay up all 24 hours? It comes down to a few people staying up for 24 hours, and it's no fun when you add on the extra 10 or 12 hours before the race even starts.
Problems continue. That's the Toyota, the 27. It was, in fact, that car. It came down to the pit lane, and once again, right back behind, I keep saying behind the wall. It's actually just into the garage, and they continue to thrash on that car, so problems continuing. Up front, the battle continues, particularly for second and third. The 2 Porsches are running in close concert behind the leading Toyota. We'll be back. Welcome back to Le Mans. There is your leader, the number 29 Toyota GT1, and they spell it O-N-E. They are emphatic. This is a very special piece of racing equipment, and it continues to lead. That is heading down, I believe, into Indianapolis once again. They'll head up and over toward the tightest corner in the track, Carnage, and then heading back. And it is fascinating to watch these cars on this track. They are running extremely well. And speaking of running extremely well, we've been talking on and off about one of the McLaren BMWs, which everybody kind of had written off. Won't be competitive, won't be in the hunt. Up to 13th right now is the number 40 entry, and one of the drivers is Bill Oberlin, and Bill has joined us here in the booth. And Bill, congratulations. First of all, I mean, you guys are putting together a great run.
Well, thanks a lot. First of all, we knew the car would be reliable. We didn't know how many of the other cars would break and then how far we'd move up, but we're just going to plug away at it. We're real early on in this race, and it is an excellent learning experience for me to be over here on such a giant, daunting racetrack.
Well, expand on that a little bit. What is this track like from from your perspective, first time?
Really, you wouldn't. All the stories wouldn't. You couldn't even imagine. The first time I took off in the McLaren, went down the back straight, Mulsanne. I take off, and they told me, watch out, it's going to be kind of strange when you're going over 200 and the trees are whizzing by and you're looking for your brake marker. You never see it. You don't see it. You're stretching your eyes to look for it, and pretty soon it's just you brake in the middle of the straightaway thinking you're going to turn. Then you reaccelerate, but after a while, it's a very difficult course to get used to. It took me 3 days, and now I'm up to speed. And between Tim Sugden, Steve O'Rourke, and I, we're gonna keep banging away.
You say you're seeing some tremendous straight line speeds for your car, struggling a little in the turns, but that the engine's doing the job.
Yeah, the BMW V12. I mean, this is an engine that basically, I run the M3 in the States. This is two of them put together. This is what this is. And what a strong motor. There's not a car that'll pass this down the straightaway. And because of the new rules of GT1, they're getting so just crazy. The McLaren was basically the last real GT1 car that they had to build 100, and it was a street car. And that's what we're racing, and that's probably what makes it so reliable.
Bill, can I ask you, driving there with Steve O'Rourke, it's very much a gentleman driver, of course, he manages the Pink Floyd pop group. But Tim Sugden, how are you getting on with him? Can you understand his Yorkshire accent for a start?
Let me tell you,
yeah,
if they start talking fast, you just lose them. They might as well be speaking French to me, but what guys? I mean, Steve O'Rourke, they don't come any nicer than this guy. I mean, and he is just a pure gentleman. Tim Sugden, this guy gets down, gets busy, and just goes away and goes fast.
And also that team, GTC, run by Michael Caine, I mean, they are really on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look down there, there's never a moment of excitement. They know, hey, after this many laps, tell me this, tell me that. I mean, they know exactly what they're looking for to make it through the day and then into the next day.
Actually, I was talking to the team earlier, and they reckon a top 5 result is on.
Well, boy, wouldn't that be good? Top 5. I mean, because I was talking to the BMW Motorsports people, and they said Steve Soper, who is like a big guy to me. I mean, I think this guy's fantastic. He's only finished 11th here in all his years, so if I can even break his record, that would be great. And I got to thank guys like Richard Breckus from BMW for making this happen for me. Hey, Richard, I know you're at home, hopefully watching. And, Eric Winsberg for getting me on the program. Everybody kind of knows who he is. Tom Milner and all the BMW group. I mean, this is really a dream come true for me to be here.
Watching the field summary at this point, and of course, you mentioned Tom Milner. You are the reigning GT3 champion in the United States Series, the Professional Sports Car Series. You've also been testing, as we watch the PANOZ coming in, might have a driver's change. We'll break for that. But you have, you're doing some developing on a different BMW engine. Hold on just a second, Bill. I believe Davy Jones is ready with the PANOZ pit stop. Davy?
Yes, sir. The PANOZ is coming in. David Brabham has been standing here. He's been thinking about his driver change move. David James has come in, and as he's coming in, he's thinking about it. He undoes the belts. He's thinking about the whole routine, about the driver change. He wants to make sure that it just goes flawlessly, that there's no mistakes, as quick as possible. A lot of things going through the mind, as they connect the belts up and plug in the drink bottle and the radio, first things, all that kind of stuff. Then Jamie Dallas is going to go back to the garage, and he's going to go through all the motions of what the car's doing, how it's handling, how's the gearbox, how's the brakes, and how's the car wear, and discuss everything with the team so they can get ready for the next round of pit stops. Now the driver change is complete. Jamie Davies is going to walk back to the garage, take his helmet off. The fuel was complete while they were doing the driver change. They cleaned the windscreen. Everything seems to be fairly routine. I didn't really see Jamie Davies say anything to David Brabham, as far as hand signals. anything about what's going on out there. And, you know, Dave is just starting to think about, you know, getting the car fired up, keeping the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, going out the pit lane, joining back in, getting into the rhythm. They're having a little bit of problem getting the car started. They had a problem with the number 44 PANOZ with the starter. They're having a little problem getting this one started. They seem to be going in, looking through.
Well, as you said,
boy, this is really holding up things in the stop. You know, there's definitely a problem with the starter that's developing. They're going to go back in, try and help David. See if we switch it on. There he goes. Now he's got it started. He's going out. And now we'll throw it on up to Calvin Fish.
Okay, well, Bill Auberlin's sister car, the number 41 machine, was just brought in by PIRRO, and Thomas BSCHER is now behind the wheel. And interesting to note that Audi are looking at involvement in this series as well for next year at Le Mans. And they've got two of their drivers, PIRRO and CAPELLO. They're actually driving this car. And Thomas BSCHER, the owner of the team, is now heading out. And a good pit stop for this team. As Bill said, this team is like clockwork. They know what to do and when it's going to happen.
Good team to make a debut run with here. Huh? I mean, those were two great. I mean, that was a great pit stop.
You know, I used to watch Le Mans TV all the time, and I'd say, boy, they're taking their time on getting in. Why are they taking so much time? And a lot of people probably don't know, you are not allowed to touch the car, tires, mechanical, etc., while you're refueling. The engine has to be off. Everybody stands there waiting to do something. So you have lots of time, because once the fuel is done, then you go right to your tires. And it's almost twice as long as an American pit stop.
How much did you practice getting in and out?
Well, we did that kind of all morning, actually. Before it went out on pre-grid, we practiced, because the McLaren is kind of particularly tough, where you sit in the front and in the center. So when you open the door, you slide forward because it's a center front seater, and it makes it real tough.
We continue to watch. Good effort. That is the number 7 Porsche Le Mans prototype car, having a very strong run in the hands of another American, David Murray, doing the job. We'll be back at Le Mans right after this. Welcome back to Le Mans once again. We continue to watch the progress of the number 8 Porsche Le Mans prototype 98. David Murray continuing to do a sterling job behind the wheel. Had a while ago set the quickest lap that car had been run in. He is having a superb run. He too experiencing his first Le Mans race, much like Bill Auberlin, who we've been talking to. And Bill, we were going to get to this. I wanted to ask you, you've been doing some development driving and testing. We watched how strong the BMW V12 Williams-built car has been going, but you've been driving a Riley and Scott with a V8 engine that might make an appearance, we understand, later on, perhaps even stateside.
I think that's BMW came out with this cam engine, which is pretty much an engine that fits a lot of different types of racing, and they decided, hey, which better way to debut it than let's run it in like a world sports car type category over here. So I keep flying over. The last race was in Czechoslovakia, of all places, and we finished second. And what a fun thing to travel all around the world to.
Interestingly, just on the screen, we have the battle, I believe, for the prototype category, because we haven't talked much about the Courages. The car's built right here in the center of Le Mans, but the number 32nd car in your picture is running very strongly, and is chasing that factory Porsche. And I believe they're actually running very close together at the moment.
That is indeed very close. The margin about 3 seconds. It shows up on the monitor about 2.5 seconds, and that is a battle for position. We're talking 6th right now. So David Murray finds he's been lapping and going through slower traffic, but he finds himself now starting to get right in the middle of his first major scrap.
Yeah, let's just name check the drivers. Didier Cottaz has been around quite a long time. He's driven for the Jackie Stewart team in Formula 3000. Mark Goossen's currently racing Formula Nippon out in Japan. And Jean-Philippe Belloc, one of the rising stars of French motor racing. And that particular Courage is the very latest one, and that's got the Nissan V8 engine in it. So that car is obviously running strongly and also using its fuel to a good advantage.
Bill, to what extent are you running a set pace, and to what extent are you flexible to run at whatever speed you want?
Pretty much. The McLaren is, you don't ever want to knock on wood wherever it is here. It's a bulletproof piece. It's a really strong car. They say run as hard as you can. Try to just pick up ground, because we know, we got to keep a good pace going, and So whatever we feel like doing.
Bill, you're talking about 354s, 55s. Is that the sort of pace?
Yeah, I mean, I started out in the 53s, and then we decided to go 2 stints on a set of tires. So I wound up around the 54s, middle 54s when I came in, took off, the temperature went up, and boy, did I burn the tires off in the second stint, and actually went even a few more seconds down after that.
You see, that Courage we've just been watching is actually just lapped in 3:48. So, I mean, you're not...
Bill, was there a moment when you drove out of the pits for the very first time? There's that battle continuing when you said to yourself, this is Le Mans, I'm here.
Yeah, well,
or were you too busy?
I don't know if I really made it, but boy, don't do something stupid here, man. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, it's just a lot of people get me here, and I don't want to make them look foolish at the end of all this.
We have a huge battle brewing. That, as you have pointed out, is the number 13 Courage, and it has traffic that Murray ran into. But the Courage, once he caught him, Andrew, he has stayed right there, and he is not giving anything up, and in fact might be taking a look here going into the first chicane. He moves out. He can get the braking done. Not enough. Oh, he looks again. Still not enough. Has to tuck back in. But he's certainly playing with David's mind, if nothing else.
You definitely have a long time to look at the guy when he's behind you. And you know what I notice is the McLaren's such a big car, they tuck in behind you. I don't see him anymore, so I don't know where they go. This is the first place that I've ever used blinkers to tell people, hey, look, I'm going to let you go by or something, and it's a pretty nice gesture, and it makes things a lot easier.
It has to be kind of interesting to be running 200 miles an hour and somebody where to pass.
Yeah, go on by. I'm going 208. You could just go right on by. And nobody really goes by the McLaren on the straight. We have to wait till the braking zone and just be nice and let them by. The only guys that could really force their way by was the Toyota. It was just unbelievably fast.
Really? I mean, it was that significant?
Yeah, they would just pass us anywhere. I went to the Porsche curves, and the difference, if you can imagine this, the difference between the Toyota and our McLaren is more than a world sports car and our GT3 car.
Really?
That's just how fast I saw him go away for the curve, and that's almost just unbelievable.
It's remarkable. Here as that battle continues, and
yeah, I think it's
Murray got a little bit of a gift there as he got around one of the Herman Velez driving the Toshiba Danka machine. That's Wayne Taylor's car. And again, the Courage is closing up, no question, into Indianapolis once again. That is a superb battle that is developing right there, and this traffic might play a bit of a role. Murray dives to the inside, and he's going to try, got him. So Murray clears the traffic. We'll see. No, he did not. The Courage did not get around, so Murray has a brief bit of clear sailing at this point. And the number 28 Toyota is in. Calvin is there again. Cal?
Tonight we may see a slightly softer compound going on some of these cars, but right now it looks like a routine stop. I don't see any gesturing.
So we're going to see, oh, we just missed it there. He's flashing his lights coming in to the front straight as if there was traffic there. Might be signaling the pits, trying to let them know something. I'm not exactly sure what. Around a lot in the cockpit. Part of that, as you can see him glancing into those mirrors, he is very aware of that Courage that is closing in relentlessly. You continue to look at the race leader, who all right, and Bill Oberlin, of course, has joined us, and no, you want to get back in out of the pits and get ready to go. One last question for you, since it's your first time here. What's your favorite part of this track?
You really hope, man, this is the first place. Oh, God, I hope the brakes work. I hope the tire stays on. You know, weird mechanical things that would never go through your head. Initially, that's what I thought. And a fun new factory works car when we're here in Europe.
That's a tough break, obviously, for that team, but...
Right. Stand corrected. I think it was Wayne Gardner that dumped it in the gravel there. Wayne Gardner, the former motorcycle champion. Meanwhile, we've got one of these Nissans, which is running like clockwork, in the pits now, the 31. And I think this race could turn out to be a battle, ultimately, between Porsche and Nissan.
You know, you talk about that 31 Nissan. We've been chatting about, well, let's first check in with the...
See the anxiety of the crew here. They're trying to keep us away. Andrew Montermini just got out of the car. Jan Lammers' skin strapped in. This stop is a planned front pad and front disc change, and apparently they take about 40 seconds to change the front pads and the front disc.
And once again, we've been talking about the driver lineup in some of these cars. Let's not forget the driver lineup in this 31 Nissan. Eric Comas, Jan Lammers, and Andre Montermini. Brilliantly quick drivers all. And in Lammers, one of the great endurance drivers of all time. And number 13, Courage, that was in that great battle with David Murray for the 7th spot. There's a driver's change going on at this point. And it looks like the driver is in. Car going up. Now they're going to go after tires.
This is really an amazing development that this Courage is this fast, don't you think, Andrew and gentlemen? Because, you know, they're running with the very best of Porsche right now, the sort of defending champion machine, and yet here's this car made right on the premises doing fabulously.
Certainly, the Riley and Scott still, got out of the gravel trap, which is good news. But yes, I mean, the Courage team has been coming here year after year. They've got close to winning it in the past, but really they've been overtaken by, you know, this great challenge from all these manufacturers. They do have a little agreement with Nissan, and meanwhile we have a Nissan in the pits. It's the number 31 car, which is now accelerating away back onto this magnificent racetrack.
Interesting perhaps to point out, there goes the Courage. It is the newest of the Courage models, the C51. It too powered by the exact same power plant. That's in the number 31 factory Nissan effort. It is a Nissan Turbo, and they may have stumbled on to a very solid package here. A good chassis, and obviously the engine doing the job. As that car now rejoins, of course, will have dropped off a little bit, but once the pit stop cycle through, could be right back and embroiled in a strong battle. There's a great shot looking backward from Le Mans. We'll be right back. We are back at Le Mans. We are right in the midst, it appears, of the Nissan pit sequence. That was the 4th place. Number 30 Nissan has made the stop. No driver change, I believe, in that one. And there's your 5th place machine right now. That is the car that was in the pits just moments ago. And there's a yellow flag waving, so something may be looking at here. That was, I believe that's Arnage, and that they may still have some debris on the track, perhaps from where that Riley and Scott Ford had stumbled off the track. Nonetheless, the number 31 car back and underway, and working through this sequence of corners. It doesn't really have a name, does it, from Arnage down to the Porsche curves, but it looks like it is very quick.
Yeah, it's flat out down there.
They are flat out. It's just an ordinary road, and as you enter the Porsche curves, if you stayed out on the public road, it would lead you up through the section that was called Maison Blanche, or White House, one of the most fearsome and formidable turns of all time. And oh, here we go. They're just going to brush that gravel off the track there. But the Porsche curves and that whole sequence has done a lot to make the track safer than it was in the 50s and early 60s.
We saw all that sweeping going on. That, of course, was right where that Riley and Scott, when it re-entered the track, was driving off, and it undoubtedly, we could see as it left a lot of debris being dumped down, so they're cleaning that up. And you can see this shot. We saw it earlier in the day, and it was a bit brighter.
Here's a car
the sun is dropping a little bit.
Yeah, but here's a car going 200 miles an hour. You know, it's worth looking at the trees.
Yeah,
and the guardrail.
That number 5 car, because it's been our camera car, remember, it ran very strongly early on, but it's dropped back to 16th place, and maybe we can find out why it's off the pace now. Obviously, it's just being caught at the moment, but they had a good run going early on. It was definitely the best Ferrari, but Now it's dropped down, as I said, to 16th position. The leading Toyota now is some 38 seconds ahead of the two Porsches, the 25 and 26 cars. They're running pretty close together.
One of the more amazing shots from that onboard facing backward was going by those workers right at the edge of the track at a fairly good clip. Take a look at our current top 10 right now, and of course it remains that 29 Toyota, who they seem to have found a pace that is salvaging everything on that car and keeping it alive, doing a great job with it. Then the two factory GT1 Porsches running second and third. Then two of the Nissans running fourth and fifth, a great effort. Then the Yost Run factory LMP Porsche running in sixth. Then the number 13 Courage, again a great show. And after those pit stops, by the way, they are separated by a scant 6 seconds again in that battle for sixth. Eighth spot is another of the Yost Run Porsches, ninth and 10th, number 32 and 33 respectively, two of the Nissans.
Yeah, just check out the situation in GT2. It is actually very exciting down there. We've got the two remaining Vipers. They are currently first and second, but there's two Porsches chasing them hard, and all four of those cars are on the same lap.
Great action, no question. And don't forget, speaking of great action, immediately following this segment of our Le Mans coverage, we'll send you directly to Derek Daly and David Hobbs for exclusive live qualifying coverage for the Grand Prix of Canada. Can Jacques Villeneuve stop the favored McLarens from winning their 7th pole of the season? Find out today at 1 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed Vision. That Ferrari that we've been enjoying the shots on, having himself, as we have been talking about, a fairly good run after pit stops have slipped to 15th, and right now running right in front of the number 3 Momo Ferrari. So the two Ferraris having a bit of their own battle on track, not necessarily for position, but they found each other and are racing hard. Now, keep in mind, we've had a lot of action leading up to this. Let's take a look at some of them. There was the start, the BMW. Brilliant start as it moved up from 6th to 3rd, but watch what happens as things get busy here. Watch this right now. These two cars, they both want to lead, and they light them up, and that was actually the Toyota that locked up and smoke going in there, and that's what allowed the Mercedes into the lead. This was the beginning of the end for the number 2 FINA BMW as it clipped one of the Courages. Damage to the Courage, indeed. Coolant pouring out, damage to that number 2 machine. It was gone. See the smoke from the Toyota? Could have been the start of those brake problems. There is Schneider, and a bad moment for Schneider as he was done. One of the GT2 Porsches having a problem, and there's the number 2 BMW being backed behind the wall, and they never brought it back out. Once again, it has been a remarkable opening 5.5 hours here for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We'll be back in a little while to bring you more. Enjoy qualifying from Canada.
He's come in for a routine pit stop. You know, everything seems to be okay. Actually, they're going to do a front disc change, a disc and brake change, which apparently it takes 40 seconds to change the front disc and the front pads on these Nissans.
Yeah, that's a car that is run by Nova Engineering, the Japanese company. That's one of last year's cars. It has got some 98 bits in, and there were some very fast drivers in that car. The one guy, Motoyama, has just come off 2 straight victories in the Formula Nippon Championship, but you do see the gravel down on the ground there, so obviously you had a trip through the gravel trap. Maybe Dave can just find out. Yeah, there you can see it.
That may be one of the reasons they were looking at the brakes. If you get gravel stuck up and it gets caught between the caliper and the rotor, that can spell disaster.
Yeah, goodbye if that happens.
Car
Beautiful
down off
angle there.
Oh, down off the jacks, out. That's the number 33 entry. Very solid entry, one of the all-Japan driver entries, and it is back and on its way at this stage. There's a good look at the LMP class, and that is 6th place right now, the number 8 Yost.
I think the point with 5th right in front there, I think the point Andrew makes is that there's one of the many cars that is driven by extremely fast drivers. There's some fantastic driver groupings. You don't say pairings because there are 3 and 4 drivers per car, but in the past, a decade ago, you'd have one hired driver, a fast driver, and maybe a second one, but then you'd have the car owner, you know, someone who was not that fast. There's no room for the car owner anymore in today's Le Mans version. They're all hired guns, and they're very fast.
And experienced. That's Pierre-Henri Raphael driving that car, and he's been here a few times before. Some interested observers in the pits. We'll be back at Le Mans right after this.
Martin Brundle has brought the number 28 Toyota in. It was a routine stop. They just put fuel in, and then just a quick wipe at the windshield, and he is out of here. Obviously not a tyre change, saving time. These guys are trying to make up time. We saw the spin earlier under braking for coming into the pits, and these guys are now hard on it. It'll be interesting to see what sort of pace he can run. He was running 3:43s here about 20 minutes ago, so obviously a lot of speed potential in the car, but they have a long way to catch up.
Well, Calvin, indeed, he is 11 laps, 10 laps by our count here on the monitor behind this very car, this Toyota, the team machine, number 29. And that car has been absolutely flawless. But the indication was that the best lap that this car has set thus far is something on the order of 3 seconds off of the best lap of the other two cars, which have experienced problems. Apparently, maybe they set up a very fast hair, a medium speed hair, and then the Tortoise. And the Tortoise is winning the war right now. Again, that car working through the corners. And the other thing to note is, you notice how they are staying off of any kind of curb that presents an obstacle. There's a couple that are fairly flat. They're willing to run up and over, but that's part of the endurance program, isn't it? You do not want to abuse the car in any way.
In theory, you try to do everything you can to save it, but then you get behind, and that has to go out the window, which can be kind of fun if you're a driver, frankly. You don't want to be behind, but it removes some of the anxiety factor, because when you drive in long distance, you're always so conscious of, have I hurt the clutch? Have I hurt the gearbox? Have I, you know, it's a kind of a negative experience rather than a positive one in a lot of cases.
Well, it's an opportunity to go run quick. Let's check in with Davey, who's with one of the players in the Momo team. Davey?
Yeah, I'm down here with Kevin Dorr, and Kevin, a little bit of problems earlier on, but the car seems to be going like clockwork.
Yeah, it's going good. We haven't had any problems to speak of. Took us a little while to get on stride maybe, and we're starting to stretch the fuel 1 lap longer now. So, we didn't want to run it out right in the beginning, but it's going all right.
The Yokohamas, you're going to go to a softer compound for the dark?
Yeah, we've got, we're actually on our full hard compound right now, and we tried stretching it 3 stints, and it really wouldn't do it. It's real good, solid tire for 2 stints, and when we get to the 3rd stint, it drops off. So we're running it 2 stints on that tire, and we'll go to a medium in dark.
Thanks very much, Kevin. We'll check in with you later.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, that car's actually in 10th place at the moment. There is a big battle going on for the prototype category. The 2 Yost Porsches are now 5th and 6th, and they've gone past that Courage, which briefly was up to 4th place. All these lead changes 6 hours into the race. We don't normally expect that. There is a tremendous motor race going on out there.
Well, and you point out the number 13 Courage is about a half a minute behind, but the 2 Yost machines have not pitted yet. And for so many cars to be able to swap position based on a pit stop at this stage of the race is remarkable. It is a great scrap, very close.
Well, for one thing, the drivers are so closely matched this time. Each of these teams has, 3 drivers that are real pros. I've never seen such depth in the driving area, so you don't get that loss of a lap suddenly because you've got a third-rate driver in there.
As we continue to follow the progress of our leader around the track, another battle developing. We'll be back to pick up all the action here at Le Mans in just a minute. Welcome back to Le Mans. We were talking moments ago about how close the battle was in the prototype category. Well, how about this one? Still only 30 seconds separating the lead number 29 Toyota and this car, the number 25 Porsche GT1, the 98 version of Müller, ALZEN, and Bub WOLLEK. And that car has been, as we've talked about, running a standard classic Porsche type of race and remaining very close in the chase.
In GT2, there's only 13 seconds between the lead Viper, that's the car David Donohue's driving, along with Justin Bell, and then the Rook Racing Porsche, which has the girl in it, Claudia Hurken. She's a really quick lady.
And they've been battling it out for quite some time as well. Remember, Justin Bell won the FIA GT2 championship last year, and Donohue, of course, was the winner of the North American Touring Car Championship. One of the drivers in this great Porsche team is standing by with Davy Jones. Davy?
Bob, can we ask you a real quick question? I know your car's coming in for a quick stop. Obviously, you're not going to do a driver change right now, but how does it feel?
Well, it's a 24-hour race, and you expect the car. Even if everything is smooth, you expect the car to break down any minute. So it's not like a very nice feeling, actually.
but you've been in this position so many times, and you feel so confident this time of night, and it just takes, there's such a long race to go, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. It is a long race. I mean, it's 8 o'clock. 6 hours, so it's another 18 hours.
But the car feels good, nice and stable, no complaints?
Well, it is a little bit difficult to drive when it's...
Thanks, Bob. We'll check in with you a little bit later. Okay, now off to Calvin.
Okay, well, the leader is in, Davey. Thierry BOUTSEN has brought the number 29 Toyota in. Routine stop. The German Ralph Kellners is now behind the wheel. He's getting strapped in as we speak. And obviously they're doing fuel immediately. And then it looks like they may be going for tyres also. And lap as the two GT1 Porsches, so there is a chance they will lose the lead here in this pit stop, particularly as they're doing a tyre change. There was a slight problem there with the air jacks. They actually had to assist getting the car off the ground, but otherwise everything looks good. Meanwhile, Davey is with the second place runner in the pits also.
Yes, the second place runner just pitted, the number 25 Porsche, and just got out of the car, but it just seems like it's a routine stop. The car is just absolutely filthy from all the carbon brakes, and they're just trying to... They're actually putting on the front tires now. They had to check the wear of the front brakes. Now the front tires are going on. Bob Wollek is standing by observantly, and he should rejoin the track.
And again, we were talking about earlier how the Porsche team is mirroring what the lead Toyota is doing. The 29 car ducks in, the second place 25 Porsche ducks in right behind it, and it made up a little time in that stop. It was about a 30-second gap before they pitted. There is the second place car now rejoining, and it is not 30 seconds behind now, Sam.
No, it's really close, and you should remember, of course, that it's Bob Wollek on this team who has never won the race. In 27 or 28 attempts. He keeps fit by riding his bicycle over here from Strasbourg, Germany. It's an incredible story, and last year he was within his grasp, and he spun out just leaving Arnage and threw the race away.
Sam, little geography lesson. Strasbourg is in France, but it's about 2 miles from the German
border. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's the Alsace area. Good wine from there. Hobbo isn't here, but he'll tell you that Gewürztraminer comes from there. Just P2 category. Good to see the private Chrysler Viper now into third place, the 55 car. That's driven by 3 Portuguese guys. The Chamberlain run car, that is... including some fresh engines. So Hugh's really happy, and maybe we'll talk to him later. He's one of the biggest characters down the whole pit road, I can tell you.
Well, I must say it is such an interesting things racing, but in things of culture, in things of geography, in things of wine.
Yeah. We're trying to bring you along, but don't believe a thing either of us ever says.
Come on. Can't do that at many racetracks. I just absolutely love it. And what I really love is to see these great battles going on at the front. We've got Toyota there. We have, of course, got Nissan. We have still got a Nissan in 6th place. PANOZ too. We've got a PANOZ in 11th place. Long, long way to go.
Notice how smoothly this GT1 Porsche runs. Scotching along like that a lot. The ride must have been very rough. They've done a lot with the suspension and the shock absorbers.
The Sam, completely different car. This has got a carbon fiber chassis.
Considered as a front runner, we may have to. Up into the 10th position now is the number 3 Momo Ferrari of Moretti, Tays, and Baldi, who obviously had the interview. And they have just been very consistent, plugging away. They're 3 laps in arrears right now, but 3 laps and 18 hours of racing to go. Certain developments, they could be right in the hunt.
Just interesting.
of racing. They've won at Daytona, they've won at Sebring, and if they were able to pull off a miracle and win here, they'd have done something that no one's been able to do for a very long time. I don't
comment earlier about if we win this race, it'll be the luckiest thing that's ever happened. I'm never going out of the house again.
I think that's pretty objective.
Right in the early going, it was up in 7th place, Vincent Sospiri in there. They had a problem with the wheel bearing, front wheel bearing, I understand, from Sospiri when I spoke to him just in the break.
Taking a look at the cars on the track right now. To settle behind the French countryside here. We'll be back with more from Le Mans in just a minute. Welcome back once again to Le Mans, and you can see the lights perhaps even becoming effective as something other than letting oncoming traffic know that you're way through. It is definitely starting to settle here just a little bit. Good look at the leader right now of the Le Mans prototype class. That was the number 7 Yost Run factory Porsche. Go to the overall race leader, the number 29 entry, and apparently something developing here. Whoa, one of the is that the Elf Courage? No, that's...
Yeah, that's the Lafayette car. Yeah, that's the Pescarolo, and he's not in at the moment. He's got a bright green crash helmet. Somebody making a bit of a mistake there. I'm pretty sure that's the young guy that's leading the French Formula 3 Championship. They've got a guy in here that's raced in Formula 1. Oliver Griard also driving that car. He's out of the other side of Formula 1. A guy is over 50, Henry Pescarolo, and then this 22-year-old kid, Montagny, who they rate is the brightest new talent in French motor racing. Well, he won't be if he makes mistakes like that.
I think he may have been surprised by the Wayne Taylor Ferrari. I think he ducked inside him and maybe spooked him just. And now the pressure continues. Let's go back again. Now there's that number 7 open top, the world sports car type of Porsche, and you'll note how close the team car is behind. The official margin right now is some 3 seconds in spots. It closes up much more than that. These two cars, they're running in formation right now behind of Porsche. They're a phenomenal effort. 4 cars in the top 5.
And the other thing that's happening right now, and obviously it depends on pit stops how this goes, but the lead has dropped 0.6 seconds.
Well, a lot of that we thought was made up in that pit stop. If you recall, the Porsche ducked in when the Toyota did, and it left much quicker. The number 8, that's the 5th place machine, down into the pits right now, and that's the Raffinel car, so he'll be turning over, or perhaps he will stay in for another stint. Nonetheless, he will certainly be giving up probably 5th spot.
Yeah, Calvin's down there, I think, with Andy Wallace.
Andy, it seems like the pace of the PANOZ here today is a little less than you probably anticipated.
Yeah, I thought we would do better at the start of the race, but for some reason we're very slow down the straights at the moment. But we've been reprogramming the engine at each stop, and it's been getting better. We started off the race doing around about 53 mark. We're now doing some 49, so we've gained 4 seconds. If we can do that again, we'll be more than on the pace.
Right. I noticed that David was having a bit of a problem getting the engine refired after a pit stop. Was that a vapor lock situation in the engine, or just heat build-up, or what's going on?
Well, I'm not sure, because Eric Bernard had the same problem just before, and so I've just asked that question myself. I'm getting in the car in about 15 minutes' time. I just asked him, will it start?
Now, you've won all of the big 3. You won Daytona, Sebring, and obviously this one with Jag. I mean, which one was the most special?
Well, you have to say, for any sports car driver, Le Mans is the biggest of them all. When you see all the people and all the factory teams that are doing this race, it's very competitive. This has to be the best one. But it's about time I did it again, because that was a long time ago now.
Yeah, you need to win again. Any chance you can get this thing to the front of me? There's been a lot of attrition early. Now that things seems to have settled down a little bit. We saw the BMWs go out, the 2 Mercedes. Toyota's hit a little bit of a trouble, but they seem to have fixed those, and they're running again. Was that surprising to you?
Well, because a lot of the teams brought brand new cars, Le Mans is a breaker of cars if you've not got it right, and obviously they've all hit trouble. Our car's not a new one, but it seems to be it's being a bit stubborn at the moment, but at least it's still going, and it's running quite strongly now. I think we've got as good a chance as any of the cars that are running. Porsche look very strong. They know what they're doing at Le Mans, and they've got it off to a T, really.
Obviously, from the spectator's standpoint, the car has distinctive sound, but probably from the driver's standpoint, being in the thing for hour on end, that thing is awfully loud. How do you feel after about 12 hours in that thing?
Well, it's distinctive from the inside as well, and in fact, the exhaust pipes are about 3 or 4 feet away from your left ear. So it gets a bit noisy, and in fact, after driving the car, when you get out, you can still hear it for a few minutes afterwards. It's pretty loud.
Okay, Andy, good luck the rest of the way.
Well, they've had themselves an eventful day. They are currently in 11th. We're watching on track now the 6th place, number 30 Nissan, as it closes in on some race traffic. We'll return to Le Mans in a moment.
Today also, and I believe that Davy Jones may be standing by with a story in pit lane.
Yes, Jones just came in for a routine pit for his laptop, and he downloads the monitor of the boost. So at any time during the run, during the stint, if the boost goes at any point 2 millimeters, monitoring the boost at all times, an official here at ACO. But other than that, it was just a routine pit stop for Yost.
Davey, are you absolutely sure that's what he's doing? He may be downloading some game that they have aboard to keep the driver amused.
Well, they could be doing that, but you know, is that it's so easy with the turbo with the electronics these days to get around what is regulated so hard. And I remember, you know, when I was in the pit stop, they would plug in their laptop and they would monitor our whole run. And at any time, if we went slightly over, it was an automatic disqualification. So the Yost is also monitoring it just to make sure it's just below where it's meant to be at all times.
Really phenomenal rules creation and enforcement by the ACO here at Le Mans. I mean, they have created rules that is obviously effective. We're seeing a phenomenal race. And then one of the big problems that appears in other places in terms of racing, running turbos with normally aspirated cars, the ACO seems to have a handle on that.
Yeah, the ACO, of course, stands for the Automobile Club of the West, and they really do feel like they're Westerners out here. You know, they look back at Paris as being, here's the GT2 leader, the Viper in there, and the people out here are very independent mind, and they operate independently many times of the FIA, the governing body of the sport. This race has a real kind of backbone to it.
It's difficult to argue with results too, isn't it, Andrew?
It certainly is, and this race does plough its own furrow, and I think it does it very successfully. Just looking at the timing screens now, the fastest car out there is that play catch-up car, the number 28 car, the Toyota, which Martin Brundle has been driving, and he is putting in regular laps of 3:43, 3:44s.
Thought that might have been a French sponsor, play catch-up. Then I realized what you were talking about. We're going to step away for just a minute. We'll be back here as, again, the sun settles. Just a minute. I believe we're not far from seeing some of those images live. We are getting very close to sunset here. We hope you're enjoying our coverage of the 24 hours of Le Mans and hope you'll stay with us. We're on until 5 p.m. Eastern today, but if you missed any of the action earlier, from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern, we'll replay the best action of the day. Then again, for those of you on the West Coast, from 8 to 11 Pacific time. Then we'll come back for a live hour-long update from 2 to 3 a.m. Eastern. Now, the sun will be coming up here locally, and that means the finish is actually in sight. Continuing coverage of Speed Weekend International only on Speed Vision. Big problem, one of the Yost Porsches running off, Sam.
Yep, at one of the chicanes, the second chicane, it looks like, on the Mulsanne, just near the Unandiers. The first chicane, chicane, right, with a little turn right after it. Is that just before or after the restaurant?
Just after.
Could have been right by Terre Rouge. Ooh, look at that. That car he was out of control for a long, long way coming in there. May have locked up a tire and just couldn't gather it back up. Then, of course, those low-slung cars turn into shovels.
Well, this is another reason, of course, that the pace is so intense compared to the past, is you can get away with things you didn't used to be able to, which is terrific. It keeps a lot of cars running and keeps them moving fast. 8th place, Nissan into the pits. The Nissan team, of course, surprising everyone with their reliability and their